Hey everybody, it's the Last Robokai here, and it's time for some more Dark Crusade, and we're actually going to be doing the Orc Stronghold today, but we're going to be doing it after like a few quick missions to get us close enough to the Orc Stronghold, so that we can slap it, so, which means Orc Talk again, I guess.
Orc
and joining me, of course, is Cool Guy.
It's always the funnest time is Orc Talk. Everything's so serious in the Warhammer 40k verse. Let's talk. Now we're going to be talking about the one race that could not possibly give less of a crap.
Yeah, assuming you avoid one particular series of books. Anyway, we got a lot to do, a lot to kill, and a lot to talk about. So let's get stuck straight in. Sorry guys, we're just gonna watch everybody fail to get anywhere again.
I can't believe this.
Ta-da! Gorgutz.
Wow! Mark this day on the calendar.
Yeah, so we're immediately just gonna go beat him up.
I mean, now that he's bordering you, I understand why you changed targets.
Just gonna bulk this place up.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to worry about getting attacked by the Space Marines here, because you can see that big wall border actually prevents it from attacking there. It's oh yeah, and so the one I actually reinforced is the one that has like a tiny window of passage to it.
Nice, nice requisition, by the way. For a moment. Now it's ruined. Hate everything.
Yeah, these moments only last for just the barest of moments. Let's make sure I've got everything. And then we're gonna go fight Gorgutz.
He's got a decent armor guard too.
Yeah, he's been he's been bumping heads on things.
Single base.
The game obviously gives them some advantages because clearly like winning is not on their priority list.
I mean, when everything is auto resolved by what has always appeared to me to be like exactly one dice roll, you can end up in a situation like this where the AIs just don't get anything going.
Yeah. So, Orcs in Dark Crusade got a few tweaks and changes from Winter Assault in a few ways, but the big thing to talk about here is actually the new unit they get, which filled a very large gaping hole in the Orc lineup before. And that is the Flash Gits.
Yeah, I was going to say, pretty sure they got Flash Gits right now.
Yeah, so to give everybody the understanding of what the Flash Gits are, they're typically associated with the Bad Moons, because the Bad Moons are the richest of the Orcs and thus can spend the most money on Flash. Flash is the Orc term for very fancy gear. Looking flash is the term it's derided from. Obviously not the way the Orcs would put it, but it's probably more to denote how it makes more sounds, more lights come off of it, etc., etc. But the idea is that the Bad Moons, because the currency of the Greenskins is teeth, and because the Bad Moons grow their teeth out faster than everybody else, thus they have a better middle class wealth. They can
This is all real, by the way.
Yes, this is real.
Real as hell.
Yeah, it's sort of, if you remember that Orcs are at their core a sort of a reference to sports hoodlums, or just hoodlums in general. You've sort of kind of see that everybody is sort of a part of it, and so you've got the rich kid hoodlums, the ones who have mummy and daddy's money to play with. Through no actual effort of their own, they just naturally seem to just get more money than everybody else, or at least that's how they see it. Yeah. And so the Bad Moons are incredibly rich, and so some of these Orcs get really, really cool guns. They really, really like these guns, and so the best thing about having really, really cool guns is showing off your really cool guns to your mates who also like really cool guns. So the Flash Gits start getting together and forming groups. And then, of course, the only thing cooler than all of you getting together and showing each other your flash guns is then going out onto the battlefield with your flash guns and showing off to everybody else. So, with the biggest, loudest, and killiest guns that there are. The added bonus, of course, being that because Orcs cannot hit the broadside of a barn at the best of times, Flash Gits tend to operate via quality of quantity just as much as the quality of killing.
And in game, the flash gits are very well modeled like that. They have very big guns with a very nice range. Excuse me.
Covered in ammo.
They have very big guns with a very nice range. They fire very quickly, and they are pretty accurate for an orc.
They have git finders on them.
Huh? Yeah, they've got git finders on them.
Yeah, I believe that's an upgrade for them, in fact, to improve their accuracy a little bit further. Like the git finder wasn't just a joke they pulled out for Dark Crusade 2. The git finder is an actual real piece of greenskin war gear in Warhammer 40k.
It's just that the joke in Dawn of War 2 was that nobody knew that the Orcish word for Eldar was pansy, which is like I'm pretty sure that was in like their second or third codex or something like that. So that also was not made up for the game. But yeah, so like they're actually a very good ranged unit in the Orcish army. They're not gonna outshoot, like warp spiders or something like that. But in choked situations where you can't get that many melee units in there, having some flash gits in the back, absolute difference between victory and defeat. Flash gits are extremely powerful.
They will, especially if you're against the Tau, and the Tau you try to use a Kroot screen to hold you up so they can shoot you to death. Well, the Kroot hit your lines, and then your flash gits evaporate the Kroot.
Yep.
So there's a lot of counterplay going on in positioning in Dark Crusade, thanks to some of these new unit additions, and I'm quite fond of the flash gits. So there we go, 15 conquests, which means even more power for us, and that means we get a cool chest plate, I guess. I'm sort of
Heart of Dudeness. Sure, why not?
Heart of Darkness. We're definitely getting to match up how it really should be looking. It's been a lot of murder.
Murder orcs.
I never actually had decided when I was doing that whether or not I was going to actually put them in the game or not, like include the save file parts. But I was just like, no, you know what? I think my brain damage is important to see. All right, we're going in. It's stronghold time, which means it's narrator time.
Narrator time.
Psych.
What? Why you do this?
I didn't look at a few locations and I realized that, so I went back to reading.
Oh.
By God, I will be giving everybody all the lore that's fit to drink in this let's play.
They did do a very good job of shaping out the planet of Kronus for this game. So it's worth it.
It's interesting. They talk about probably the largest orc threat they had, and they took care of it using Kroot.
Yep.
And they've kept the orc skull and left it in Janus's public square, which is a little barbaric, Tau. Excuse me, Tau.
They don't really care that much about the individual places, though. So it's just like whatever. If you think it's too gruesome, we'll just move somewhere.
I will.
TXT.
I will say though, I have high expectations that the rest of the Warboss was eaten by the Kroot, and so you got some very swole Kroot going around for a little bit.
Flexing. They just have flex offs in the public square now.
Yeah, and this is sort of this details the arrival of Gorgutz. He came via large asteroid crashing into the Earth, as the Orcs are known to do, as we saw in Space Marine.
Yep.
When they basically use them as ginormous boarding craft to land on planets.
and then Gorgutz basically said, "All right, I'm bigger than all of you, so I'm the boss." That's more or less how he got his new Wa, which is insanely Gorgutz. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, he stepped out. The feral orcs were all like, "Hey!" And then he was like, "Oi!" And then started beating them up. And that's how we got here.
Those opposing Warlord Gorgutz headhunters Green Tide faced the same challenge the Tau had faced on Kronus for generations. Pushing the Orcs back from the deserts and cities was one thing, but dislodging them from the jungle was another altogether. Even the legendary Tau leader, Commander Farsight, had failed to purge the orc-infested swamps of the Green Coast. Still, a complete purge wasn't necessary to break Gorgutz. The warlord had cobbled together his great horde, or Wa, in the parlance of the alien, from a large number of fractious clans and tribes. So long as the warlord led the Wa to victory, their clan's loyalty was assured. But with enemies assailing them in their very homes, discontent reared its head among the orcs. Secondary chieftains wondered if they might not make better warlords than Gorgutz. With these fissures in the Wa widening, the orcs' enemies struck. They drove deep into the Green Coast, hoping to eliminate Gorgutz himself and plunge the horde into infighting and rebellion. For Warlord Gorgutz, the only solution was to crush the attackers under unrelenting waves of orc warriors.
You think you can sneak about without me boys seeing ya? You think you can come for me, Ed? Orcs is never beaten in battle. Shut it, you grot! The rest of them are coming and we gots to be ready. Tell the boys there's some killing to do. I made them big banners to remind the clans that they better keep their boys in line. I don't want no squigheads looking to fight me when the enemy's right here. Gorgutz is the war boss. Got it, you mudsuckers? This here voicey box let him talk to you. So open your ears. Listen up, you grots and squids. They's coming for us like we some kind of humy gits, but we ain't. We's the orcs, and this here is gonna be one great fight. So get your choppers and your shooters ready, boys, 'cause there's some killing to do. Head crushers, you ready? Foot stompers, you squiggers and such ready? Burner boys, you wanna fight? Rocket Rangers, you in it or what? And what about yous, quick mechs? You gonna let these other runts get all the good fighting done? That's right, we gonna crush 'em all. This here is a right and proper war!
Still got that fucking pointed stick there. I never noticed that before. That thing has been like the subtle revelation throughout the entirety of this Let's Play so far.
Yep.
Has arrived. We come for you. Death. You look more like a human who needs some feeding, metal boy.
We exterminated all life on this planet once before, and we will do so again.
That was before me war got here. Now we the ones doing the exterminating.
On a related note, I think I've said this before, but like I really want to buy the narrator a beer at some point, just because so much ham getting eaten with these intros.
It's so important to say. It's so important to say things about this stuff with a straight face, because otherwise it just the ridiculousness just becomes too wink nudge nudge. But if you say it with a straight face, it's way better.
yeah, it's just like this is a cat who internalized this enough that he did not crack up laughing once he started talking about how how like the green tide works, and it's so freaking good.
It's so good. So yeah, this is definitely one where we needed all of our retinue to come in swinging. Because look at this. Look at this. This makes the everything else just look like a walk in the park.
Yeah, those are mega armored knobs in there too. Like that's not just a whole bunch of chaff.
They got war tracks. They got war trucks. They got guns for days. They you know, it's not like the initial charge of chaos or whatever. Like we would be feeling this hurt. But luckily we aren't feeling this hurt because we brought all our retinues with all of our wonderful, wonderful violent instruments.
Oh man. Okay, so orcs.
Yeah.
We should probably I had to stop for a long moment just to appreciate what was in front of me. But we should probably talk about orcs.
Well, I mean, this we've discussed a great deal of how the orcs function as a race in terms of being, you know, essentially a bizarre space fungus developed by the old ones in their fight against the Necrons. They were originally known as the Krork, and they may have followed. They don't really remember so much themselves. A type of fungoid known as the Brain Boys by the rest of them, but that by some, you know, either intended or unintended genetic quirk of the orcs. The Brain Boys degraded to the point that they essentially may have become snotlings. But needless to say, aren't in charge anymore, that's for sure.
Right.
And so the idea behind the orcs is essentially they rally together. The more of them that get together, the greater their psychic power gets generated, the more easier it is for them to travel through the warp for fights, attract more orcs to their side, etc., etc. It's basically the mob. It's basically when a mob gets really excited and you can feel that energy, and then someone kicks it off by doing something really stupid, and everyone just gets even dumber. That's basically orcs in a nutshell. In terms of actually fights against the Necrons, there aren't a huge number that come to mind that are particularly memorable. You know, I talked about how the Stormlord always sort of struggles with the orcs because, you know, he expects a certain degree of rational behavior from his enemies. The orcs don't fight necessarily for the same things everyone else does. They might fight for territory. They might fight for other stuff. They might also fight because they wanna get to a fight faster than somebody else. So they might go, you know, a quicker march than expected, simply because they didn't want the other guys to get the fight before them. You know, like you can't really predict them too well on a macro scale. You have to sort of basically use the intelligence you're getting on a base to base moment and figure out what you're gonna do about it. Dear, which you know, like, not so great when you're the big grand strategist who weaves everyone's paths and he's like, yes, I'm sure that the enemy will strike here because I've done this feint where I've put like a weak number of enemies, so clearly they're gonna come for here. And this one orc goes, oi, there's no good fight over there, let's go over here instead. And hits where they look strong but are actually weak. And it's just like, how did they, what? My what? My plans?
How did they see through it? They didn't. They guessed. Like that,
it was completely by accident.
Yeah, it's just which you know, again going with the entire theming of you know, sports hooligans. Like it works so well, and I always appreciate the presence of orcs in the mythos just because they have so much fun being so damn stupid. And
not so fun being conquered by them, but
yeah. Well, the orcs are having fun, and like I've said multiple times, I don't necessarily feel the need to take some sort of life lesson from Warhammer 40k. Like, I really don't.
My life lesson from 40k is, boy, I'm glad that I will die of old age before anything conceivably like this ever occurs.
Yeah,
like a big sweat wipe off the forehead on that one. The map itself, actually, I should probably talk about it, is kind of clever in its own way, because we're going around and we're going to be destroying banners, which, if you remember, is how Gorgutz got his war going in the first place. In Winter Assault. Pardon my yawns. In Winter Assault, as Gorgutz, you go around tearing down the banners, to prove that you're bigger and stronger. And so Gorgutz has erected these banners similarly, and we're going around and tearing them down, which then, because he can't protect his big banners, turns the Orks away from him, and they start thinking, well, maybe, he's not as strong as he thinks he is. Maybe we can take him. So the idea is you go in, you destroy the banner, and the enemies that are in this area as part of that faction, similar to how the Imperial Guard did, go, fuck this shit, I'm out, and start heading towards him to attack. So it makes these ridiculous fights a little more bearable if you can sort of laser in on the one target.
It is possible to beat this particular map without beating up those banners, but you're going to be here about three times longer, and all of us are aging plenty fast enough as it is. Thank you very much.
I mean, you can sort of tell how quickly this sort of snowballs when you think about how I did a mission before I did this mission, and we're still in under an hour of video,
right?
Of gameplay video. So, like, this is not a long mission, but God, it's a good fight. Like, it's a brawl. Like, every step of the way, it's masses of Orks. In Dark Crusade, the Necrons do have a pretty solid advantage against the Orks in a lot of ways, because they just tear through them. Like, Orks can, for the most part, silence a lot of Necron guns through the power of, like, just tying them up in melee. But by that same token, if you've got, like, I've got lots of like layers of troops shooting, yeah, they might tie up the front rank, who are incredibly tough to defeat, even if they won't be doing much damage in hand-to-hand combat, while everybody fires past them and just obliterates your dudes.
There's also the point that flayed ones are kind of the anti-orc because they hurt. Yeah, they hurt the morale, and orcs have terrible morale. Like until you get to some of the last the final tier stuff, the morale of orc units is very, very fragile. Especially in this particular case, having a couple retinue flayed ones, massive advantage. I had a much more difficult time with them when I played my original campaign against them as the Space Marines, because effectively I had one good unit to really bottle them up front, and that was the Grey Knights unit. I could only build one of those units.
It'll be fun to talk about them when they turn up.
I mean, we're gonna have a lot to talk about considering the Demon Hunters game that's recently come out. But
oh yeah,
we'll have we'll leave that one for when it lies. But as far as the Orks go, as much as I enjoy seeing them, they frequently do not get that much play in the traditional books and everything. And like a couple of times that they have, the author has really tried to grimdark them up and completely missed the point of the orcs. But there's a couple of stories about them that I still absolutely adore. You're gonna have to step in and correct me on a couple of these, RoboCai, because I don't remember a lot of the names.
I'm guessing the first one is Death Squadron.
Death Squadron was probably about the second or third one I was gonna talk about, but that one is absolutely brilliant. We'll talk about that one after this cutscene.
Gorgutz ain't so tough. Get him! Ain't no grot lover's gonna leave me war! Chop them up, boys!
Boss! The head crushers is rebelling!
I can see that, you squig farmer! Shut your yap and get back to killing!
Squig farmer is definitely a good insult. Yeah, Death Squadron is great because basically we apply Orcish engineering to World War II fighters, and you just apply as much heavy metal and hard rock and roll as you can to it, and then you've basically got a Death Squadron story. And everything about it is good.
I'll just cut in for a second if you don't mind, and just explain to everybody that while the enemy have turned on Gorgutz, they are still our enemy as well. So we can still kill them. All right, you continue your thought.
Yeah, Squadron itself had a rather simplistic but incredibly fun video game made in, I believe it was 2020, might have been 2019. But if anyone reading or watching rather hasn't checked out that game, do yourself a favor and at least go look it up. Like it's not a demo. Huh?
It has a demo.
Yeah.
So
okay. Perfect.
It behooves people to go take a look at it.
Yeah. Go take a look at it. It's a lot of fun. Like it might not necessarily be your cup of tea, and it's certainly not the deepest game on the planet. But it's one of those games that has a lot of joy at existing, and it's a game that wants to be played.
And to clarify it for people, it's called DACA Squadron, just so you understand.
Yeah, sorry.
Because Def Squadron was the comic, DACA Squadron is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, and Def Squadron, the comic, also just like it had a very what's the vibe I'm going to try to quote here. Dr. McNinja vibe. It had a very Dr. McNinja vibe. Insofar as the like certain things went because they said so. Damn it! And if you wanted to argue the point, the answer was get the hell out of my office. It was lovely in that way. And then the next one was I believe this one was actually a codex story, but it's the orc that was loved by Khorne.
Yes, everyone like there are two stories that'll always get brought up in the comment section when orcs are talked about, and one is the story of the orcs who decided they were going to invade the Eye of Terror. So they did a warm up by attacking, I believe, Catachan, which is a hell of a take. And then they went into the Eye of Terror and did do a heck of a lot of damage in there. As much as you can damage things in a demonic realm, where reality is incredibly unstable and time means very little. Until they came to a planet where, essentially, all across the surface of the planet, the demons of Khorne would do battle for Khorne's amusement, and then, when the day resumed, everyone would come back alive. And so, when they landed upon that planet and got into conflict there, they in turn had that happen as well. But I believe you're about to talk about your favorite moment being the middle finger.
Yeah, like basically the time when the Warboss had lost basically all of his Wa, and he was getting faced down by a demon prince, and the demon prince was basically taunting him as demon princes do, and the Warboss basically turned to what little of his Wa was left and said, "See, boys, I told you this was the best place to fight." And he just turns around and just fucking clocks the demon prince and just starts laughing and mocking him. And Khorne basically was watching the entire thing. And in as much as it's possible, a tear came to his eye, and it was just like these creatures, they were made for me.
Yes, and as a result, these orcs are fighting in perpetuity as well.
And they love it.
Rip to the orcs that didn't quite get that far with all the other fighting that happened, because you guys didn't count. Yeah, he and the other story that people often talk about is the orc who, as he was about to set out on a war, basically, due to how warp travel works, managed to arrive just as his war was about to leave. Meaning that there were two wars and two of the same warboss, and because he liked his custom shooter so much, he killed the past version of himself in order to get two of his custom shooters. And according to the dialogue for it, the war stalled simply because everyone was really fucking confused. Someone probably went, "Wait, boss, if you just killed yourself in the past, how are you still existing?" And he was just like, "Oh, well, no, actually." And then they all just I just imagine there's just this large congregation of all orcs just sitting around, just going, "Like, oh, you sure you're smart, because then this wouldn't be bothering me so much, and I'll be able to figure it out."
You gotta read. You've gotta like. We've gotta write. Like I think one of the like fan solutions to that was in all of the conversations they had. They had to have them in red words because you could read red words faster. Like you could just write.
Stop it! Don't say that. Don't say things like that. Stop it. I've been trying to avoid that. I've been trying to avoid that shit so hard, and you've been trying to bait me into it so hard this entire fucking thing.
I said it was. I didn't say it was canon. I said it was.
I'm reaching for the fucking. I'm reaching for the shooter on the desk. I swear to God.
All right.
Someone even said during the stream, where all of it came up, the whole orcs can do things because they believe things, and someone said, guys, let's just continue this in the Orc Stronghold comment section. And I was just like, oh no! Oh god. Everyone knows my stance on it. I'm not going to elaborate further. I will probably elaborate further at some point when I get really furious
it's like we've said it before. Like I absolutely like the more you and I have talked about it, the more I've come around to your point of view on it, actually. So if you can take any solace from the entire situation, you've convinced me at least. There was one other really.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
I don't know.
I'm trying to build more summoning cores for some reason. I don't know why. I think a summoning core is actually raise your cap. I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Like, it's been a year. Alt past me probably couldn't even tell me what I was doing then. I'm gonna have to go back in time and kill him. 1 second. That's the actual reason why the LP took a year to kick off, is because I went back in time and killed myself. And then everybody just wouldn't let me continue until I actually explained what the hell just happened.
There's one other orc thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's bloody escaping me now, because I unfortunately had a very full day of looking for my wallet for 4 hours and still couldn't find it. So I've managed to erase all my entire agenda of what I wanted to talk about today, unfortunately. But whatever.
I think the fairest thing to say is that when it comes down to it, well, I know I'm building more of these fucking things because building these things increases the area that you can build things in.
Yeah, that was actually my theory, because the summoning core was the smallest thing you could fit in that projected a control area around itself.
Yeah, there we go. I'm getting there eventually. I forgot that was a factor of it. All the time we've been talking about the Necrons, I forgot that was a thing. I'm glad past me remembered that was a thing, because now I can build more power generators everywhere. Orcs, at their core, make a really good foil for everybody else. That's not to say that they don't get their time in the sun. The story of Gazghull, is honestly one of my favorites. And honestly, I imagine he's one of the favorites of a lot of Games Workshop staff as well, because he is technically one of the two first special characters in Warhammer 40k. Mm-hmm. Back when they started making when they basically started giving stat lines to particular special characters, the first two to actually get their own unique stat line and everything like that was Gazghull and Commissar Yarrick.
Gorgutz is a grot herder, that one. I should be boss.
Can't believe he's herding grots.
I's the boss now.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so basically we start a fight and we pull back a little just to let them kill each other for a little bit, because it's fun. It's fun and it's funny. Because Armageddon is probably the best I think story of the orcs and how they function and how much damage they did. Because it somehow made the first time Armageddon got invaded look like a leisurely walk in the park, and that's kind of funny to say, because the first time Armageddon got invaded, it was Angron at the head of a horde of bloodthirsters, right? And the Space Wolves, Grey Knights, and an entire planet of Imperial Guard and Planetary Guard had to just basically pull back an entire region that ended up just becoming nothing but blood for ages. But when the second war, sorry, you go.
I remain resolute, by the way, that the people who who designed, like, who did the basic game design for Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, were inspired by the incredible romance story that is Gazghull and Yarrick.
It's a fantastic story.
It is an absolutely beautiful story, and like just the unending back and forth that these two complete lunatics had. Go read just the highlights of Armageddon, and then look at the broad strokes of Talion's Crusade in those two Middle Earth games, and tell me they're not like exactly the same beats. You can't.
Yeah. So for those, like, I can spare some time to talk about it. Just the general idea is that when the planet of Armageddon was invaded by the Orks, the planetary governor was a corrupt, inept moron who was like, oh, like, who the fuck cares? Like, just send some men out, take care of them, who cares? And of course, like, the only person who was, like, actually saying, hey dude, pull your fucking head in, was a commissar present at the time, Yarrick, who didn't have a lot of political pull, and obviously, as a commissar, wasn't really able to make those sorts of judgments on a planetary governor, and he was banished to a faraway worker hive known as Hades Hive. And so, the Orc invasion started, and Gazghull, being Gazghull, was an Orc of fairly, initially, no particularly interesting renown, who, upon sustaining a particularly brutal head injury on a fairly isolated planet, I think an automated gun, like, peeled his head off.
Right.
He basically got surgery done on him by a mad doc, who ultimately caused, we're not entirely sure if it, like, unlocked hidden potential in him, or just accidentally acted as an antennae to War energy, but Gazghull started to dream big after that, and he started to get very good at, in conducting violence. He declared himself the prophet of Gork and Mork, and he backed it up. He backed it up with incredible violence. He started to grow incredibly quickly, so he became big and bigger and bigger, and so they attacked Armageddon, which was a very, very large, like, planet with lots and lots of resources and lots Imperial Guard. The Armageddon Steel Legion are quite a famous bunch of like armored transport combat units in the tabletop, so to speak. They've got a lot of chimeras and things like that, because Armageddon, partially thanks to Angron's Angron's only visit, did reduce much of the landscape to hostile radioactive ruin.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire thing is that while everywhere else fell, Hades Hive held out incredibly well, and it, like, every single scheme that the Orcs would try to come up with to get into Hades Hive, let alone, like, attack it, failed, because Yarrick was very, very good at figuring greenskins out, and that in turn made Gazghull go like, what the hell's going on? Like, you guys haven't taken the hive yet, so, he started killing the people who were in charge of the siege whenever they weren't making progress, until eventually he took over it himself. And by this point, Yarrick had achieved a level of infamy even amongst the Orcs. In one particular battle with an Orc warboss, he his own arm was ripped off, and Yarrick slew the Orc and held the claw aloft. And, like, the Orc had a very large bionic claw that he was very fond of, so everyone could see it when Yarrick, bleeding from a stump, held it up for all to see and broke the morale of the entire Orc force, and they fled. And of course, Yarrick, passed out, but when they were doing surgery on him to get him a replacement bionic, he was like, put the fucking claw on.
Yes!
Put the claw on. So Yarrick they modified it, obviously, so that it would, A, work on human anatomy, and B, incorporate a bit more, maintainable human bionics. But that's how Yarrick got his famous Orc claw, which is kind of a ridiculous image if you think about it, because Yarrick was a thin, resolute, very old, even by the time Armageddon kicked off, old man. So, very sort of haggard-looking, things like that. And then he's just got this gigantic claw that's, like, almost as big as he is. So I was like, imagine having a discussion with that guy as he's just trying to put his claw somewhere where it's just not going to be, like in the way, and it just makes it more obvious he has this giant Orc claw. And then, like, you know, he was so good at killing orcs and seeing them off, the orcs started, you know, spreading rumors about him, like, oh my god, you don't want to get sent to Hades Hive. Yarrick can kill you just by looking at you.
Yes,
because, he was really good at killing orcs. And so when Yarrick got lost an eye, when like a stray round took one of his eyes, he turns to the tech priests that were there, and is like, give me a bionic that shoots lasers. And so he got a bionic that would shoot from his eye, because then he basically made it so that, yes, his look could kill with the glance. He basically realized this shit's demoralizing them really, really bad. Let's give everything they think truth. Let's make the stories true. It wasn't a case of, oh, they believed it was going to happen, so suddenly Yarrick started shooting lightning bolts out of his cock, and you know, and things like that. He basically was just like, oh, these guys are, you know, this is the mob mentality going. I'm going to give them what they want, and that's just going to make them start, like, winding themselves up even further. God knows what else they might have invented about Yarrick before Hades finally fell. Because in the end, like, Gazghull threw everything. And to his credit, Yarrick was found alive, buried under rubble, horribly wounded, with, like, piles of dead orcs around where he'd been, like, sort of, you know, crushed. But Hades Hive had held on for so long that it meant that the reinforcements arrived. And the reinforcements arrived in the form of a large Imperial contingent, but also several large contingents from Space Marine chapters. And we're talking the Blood Angels, the Salamanders, the Ultramarines. You know, these three in particular were pivotal in essentially breaking the back of the Orc attack on Armageddon. But it was Yarrick and Hades Hive that held the line. And it's such a great story. Like, reading just the Siege of Hades Hive alone is such an amazing story.
Keep the trainer safe.
And just all the different ways that Gazghull tried to get in by sending commandos and things like that. And Yarrick managed to unite an entire Hive City. Remember, a Hive City is not just 20 guys with a really big stick, or even a city full of people. It's basically a city in width that stretches to the upper atmosphere. So he managed to get everybody in this entire hive, for the most part, from the upper hive nobles to the lowly undergangers, to work together. And so when commandos tried to slip in through the sewage systems or whatever, or the effluent systems, there would be people who'd spent every day living in the underhive in there, having smeared themselves in oil and grime so they blended in, using nothing but knives to slit the Orc commandos' necks as they snuck in. And it's just shit like that. They tried to send in larger war constructs to try and tear the walls down so that they could get inside. But the people had jury-rigged cranes to fight back, big punching cranes to just slam into these wall-destroying constructs as they got close. It was just really cool shit, that you just don't hear enough about in a lot of other stories. It wasn't just a story of how Commissar Yarrick beat Gazghull, but how an entire hive full of people just held out against a world-conquering invasion. And they didn't survive. Hades was slaughtered almost to the last Yarrick. But but if they hadn't, God knows what could have happened. Well, I know what could have happened.
I mean, the rest of Armageddon would have fallen.
Yeah, because the Third War of Armageddon happened, and the very first thing that Gazghull did was just drop rocks on Hades Hive. He wasn't going to let that happen again.
The interstitial between the second and third wars for Armageddon is almost as good as the story of the second war though, because basically
yes,
after the Space Marines showed up and drove Gazghull away and found Yarrick nearly dead. Yarrick basically still, recovered enough under medical care to get back to full strength, and then he was like, I am going after that piece of shit. I am going after them. And Gazghull basically made his home on a Space Hulk, and Yarrick jumped into the Space Hulk and was like, all right, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you one-on-one. And eventually, Yarrick Yarrick was captured by Gazghull, so he lost, right? And he wakes up in an orc prison. He's had his claw ripped away and his bionic eye plucked out, and he's in this dark, dank oubliette with only squigs coming around. And so, what is this like? Old man, he's like 80 or something by this time, by the way. And
probably
so,
older.
Yeah, something like that. And he hunts a whole bunch of squigs and uses their quills as a ladder to pull himself out of the garbage chute that was feeding his oubliette. And then he climbs to the top and finds Gazghull right there, and Gazghull is like, all right, just fine. I figured this was gonna happen. I'm just gonna throw you amongst a bunch of the other human slave prisoners. So Yarrick, of course, organizes a slave uprising, and
He couldn't do it.
burns down a temple to the Orc gods, basically thinking Gazghull was there, but like a bunch of the other prisoners were like, no, you can't stay here and commit to that. We're gonna do that part. You've got to warn the Imperium about how powerful Gazghull is getting again. And so he sabotages an orc ammo dump, blows it the fuck up, and Yarrick runs away and hijacks an orc mech boy's bits to get off of everything. The orcs chase him down in customized fighters, which, like, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't show up maybe any other time in the mythos, and they haul Yarrick back to Gazghull, and after capturing him again and knocking him out. So when Yarrick finally regains consciousness, he sees that he's got his claw back, he's got his eye back, and Gazghull is right there, and there's hundreds of orcs around him. Everybody is cheering him on. They're just like, yeah, Yarrick, motherfucker, yeah! And Gazghull basically just looks at him, still scowling, and goes, "I'm releasing you. Get back to Armageddon, because good enemies are really hard to find."
Yeah. So the entire thing is that, it's kind of funny, but in a lot of ways, what Gazghull did there was subvert what Yarrick had done to the Orcs in the Second War for Armageddon. He had changed the mythos of Yarrick being this doomsday reaper that carved his way through orcs as easily as breathing, and turned him into something we really want to fight for. He showed that he was just a man, but an incredible man who could do incredible things as their enemy. And so, like, the entire thing kind of reads like Gazghull demystifying Yarrick and instead turning him into, like, something that everyone gets hyped about fighting. Because I imagine he would have talked about, oh, I want to take a second crack at Armageddon, and some orcs would have been like, well, what about Yarrick? So until he actually, demonstrated Yarrick to these orcs and demystified him, it was always going to be something that played at the back of their heads. It's also why he destroyed Hades Hive. Gazghull's not stupid. And the suggestion is that as an orc gets bigger, larger, and more combat experience, they do get smarter as well. Mm-hmm. And, speaking of...
Got me yet. Got me one more surprise for you.
The boss? Who is getting shot at?
Ain't you the master of the obvious? Use explosives.
Tell what?
The bomb, you kid. The bomb. Always have your tunnels dug and ready. You sure is smart, boss. Shut it, you git! I got me a whole war to rebuild. Now get me the gawk off of this here planet.
Always have your tunnels dug and ready is like one of my favorite lines in like the entirety of the game.
Two unrelenting tides crashed into one another as the Necrons moved into the Green Coast. Imperial citizens can be forgiven for rejoicing to see the barbaric Orcish horde face the merciless advance of the ancient Deathbringers. No matter who won, however, the cause of man suffered. And when the Necron scythe decapitated the Orc horde, it was only one step on their march of galactic extermination. Orcish hordes are notoriously difficult to eradicate, since the beasts reproduce at a phenomenal rate. Indeed, Kronus' jungle had been the domain of feral orcs long before Warlord Gorgutz arrived. The Necrons, however, applied their murderous resoluteness here as well, and systematically purged the jungle, one step at a time. Millions of orcs ultimately perished, each death a pleasing sacrifice for the Nightbringer.
And that closing comment actually did remind me of something.
Yeah.
One of the things about the orcs and the Necrons is that the Nightbringer, as the aspect of death, has scarred the psyche of pretty much every living creature that still, that was around back then. So even like the suggested the Catan might have even touched Earth, because we also fear the Reaper. The Eldar have many Reaper adjacent things like the Death Jesters and the Dark Reapers and things like that. That have all got like the concept of the scythe and everything like that. And they often say that that's what comes from the Nightbringer and the effect he left on the general psyche of all these different races. He never encountered the Krok. And as a result, orcs do not have an aspect of death, and they do not fear death. So that's probably the biggest Necron war in heaven sort of thing to talk about in terms of the greenskins. I got there, I know someone was like getting ready to type that one in on me, and I was just like, but nope, game reminded me.
Game reminded you. There is one other Orcish factoid that I abruptly remembered about 30 seconds ago too, but I will save that one for next time, because we're going to need some wind up for the next interstitial. So I will get to it next episode. Look forward to it. It's not actually that terribly interesting, but a nice little tidbit. And until then, I'm good.
Yeah, and there's still plenty to talk about, because there are about another 3 more of the regular fights to go before we finish the campaign, which means that we're not long going to be beating up the Eldar and beating up the Space Marines to wrap it all up, and then finishing off with the Tau doing the Necron stronghold. And so I have been the Last Robokai,
and I have been Cool Guy,
and we'll see you all next time as we continue to purge our way across Kronus.